Have you heard of the term woke right? What does it mean? Is it even really a thing? Let's backtrack a little bit. What does it mean to be woke? The term woke has come to be synonymous with like extremely stupid and even evil to people on the right. But it actually means a lot. It actually means something quite specific. So wokeness on the left has come to be exemplified by blue-haired teachers, giving pornographic books to their kiddies at school, to family-friendly drag shows, to tearing down or desecrating statues of the founding fathers, or giving 13-year-old girls double mastectomies. That's what those of us on the right, that's what we think of when we think of woke. So when someone says woke right, it causes like kind of some cognitive dissonance. But let me explain this a little bit further. Before I go into woke right, let me tell you a little about myself. My name is Julie Beeling. I lived in Russia in the late 90s, and then I went to graduate school for Russian language and literature and Russian and East European studies for a dual master's. Then I wrote the book Beneath Sheep's Clothing about the communist takeover of culture in the Soviet Union and parallels in America, and co-produced the documentary by the same name, Beneath Sheep's Clothing. It's available at beneathsheepsclothing.movie in Salem now. It came out in 2024. So I've spent the last few years dissecting what woke is and how it works, focusing, of course, on the left, because that was the form of wokeness that was a real problem. And I've really looked into its connections to Marxism and how to explain wokeism to both adults and to kids so that it's understandable. And, once you see it, you recognize it, know what it is, stay away from it. In fact, I actually put together 3 home lessons for parents to teach their kids about freedom versus tyranny, red flags of tyranny, and all about the ideology of wokeism. The first lesson, why does freedom matter? I give that away for free. I also have 2 video courses that I put together. The first one showing all the ways in which Marxist agendas, most of which are woke, are in our public schools. In fact, I give this course away for free. The second course goes into solutions, where I've interviewed several people on the ground, school teachers, parents, school board members, and people involved with crafting education legislation in their states. Giving all of this content away for a very deep discount right now. You can go to peoplesnetwork.us/bundle and grab all of that content for $9.99. But anyways, moving on. So ever since Trump was elected in November of 2024, increasingly I've been seeing the rise of the woke right, quite shockingly. And when I first heard the term woke right, it was actually over 1.5 years ago. It didn't settle well with me. I was like, I don't know what that even means. And so I just stuck it on a shelf in my mind. But then it started coming up more and more, especially from people like James Lindsay, who is a friend of mine, someone I interviewed a few times for my film, Beneath Sheep's Clothing. And I was like, well, if James thinks this is a big deal, I should really take a look at it. But then I started seeing it more and more and experiencing it for myself in very shocking ways, actually. We're talking people on the right, and some of these influencers that are pushing some of these agendas are people that I've followed in some cases for several years, and people who I've really appreciated. So it's been kind of shocking to see this happen. But what's becoming more and more clear to me is that woke is not just something that's on the left. It's actually an operating system. And it worked really well for the powers that be to subvert or undermine the left. And look what's happening to the left. It's imploding. They might not understand yet that's what's happening, but we can see it with our own eyes. And if we don't nip this woke right business in the bud, we will see the same thing happen to the right. We will see the destruction of the right, of the MAGA movement. And that will undermine the chance of our upcoming administration to be able to enact the policies that we need to be able to protect freedom. So that's why I'm taking the time to make this video and give my take on it. And I hope that you find something valuable here. And I really hope it's more understandable to you. This is not about attacking the right. This is about trying to save the right from subversion so that we can have a free nation. Because yeah, the pendulum is swinging back to the right. These evil powers that be, the only way they can take out America now is by subverting the right. And there's no way they're not going to make those efforts. They 100% are going to make those efforts. How successful will they be? That depends on us. Are we going to wise up and learn the lessons that people on the left didn't learn? Learn these lessons before it's too late. So here's how woke works, and then I'll give examples of how it works on the left, how it has worked, and then how I'm seeing it work on the right. And I'm going to give some specific examples. So a red flag that you're dealing with wokeism is a hyper focus on identity. And what we've seen on the left is there was a hyper focus on race. So people of color, Black Lives Matter, and a hyper focus on LGBTQ. And so the woke left is Marxist in nature because it's pitting oppressed versus oppressor. So saying that people of color are oppressed, the LGBTQ are oppressed. Who are their oppressors? Well, it's white supremacy, it's heteronormativity, cisnormativity. So what you do is you stoke grievance repeatedly, constantly, and then you get those people to rise up and try to tear down the systems of power, to try to tear down white supremacy or whiteness, which became increasingly insane, where, things like math becomes racist, where the Pledge of Allegiance is racist, the American flag is racist, everything is racist, homophobic, and bigoted. That's woke left. Woke left is also not just focusing on these identity groups, but having people rank themselves based on their privilege. Those with more privilege are to sit down and shut up. Those with less privilege are to be uplifted so that there can be what's called equity, which is communism. With this woke left, there's this collective justice where whole identity groups of people are to be punished collectively for the sins of their identity group. Therefore, all white people are racist, etc. So what we're seeing on the right, on the woke right, is this cropping up of some influencers. And here's where it can be tricky, because most of what any influencer, whether they're woke left or woke right, a lot of what they say are things that are true. And if it's a concept, if it's something that's important to you, for instance, racism is something that is important for a lot of people to address. People of color have experienced racism. Therefore, it was easy to get them to follow with Black Lives Matter, donate to Black Lives Matter, go and march on the streets with Black Lives Matter because they believe Black Lives Matter. Because in fact, Black lives do matter. But then unbeknownst to them at the time, the organization Black Lives Matter was actually led and founded by Marxists who were trained to subvert our society. On the right, we're seeing more and more in recent months, to almost an extreme degree that I can't even believe, is this anti-Semitism cropping up on the right, where everything is the fault of the Jews. And it really is fascistic, and almost like you could see how people could accuse them of being Nazi sympathizers, because on the far extreme, you actually have people praising Hitler and praising fascism and other fascist leaders like Franco. And sorry, we don't need fascism, another authoritarian system, in order to overcome communism. We have our constitutional republic, and that is what our goal should be here in America, not another authoritarian system to replace the one that we were just hopefully have overthrown, the threat of communism. Fascism, we don't want that either. So blaming everything, let's say it's true, and I think it probably is. I think Judaism was infiltrated by dark forces a long time ago, and there's been some dark things that have arisen out of it. That does not mean that the regular rank and file Jewish person is personally responsible. So a lot of the leaders of the Bolshevik revolution in the Soviet Union were Jews. But then the Bolsheviks got in power, the communists got in power. What did they do? They persecuted the Jews very heavily, just like they persecuted Christians. So this is not a Jew thing, a Jew versus Christian. And one more thing about that, it really looks to me that the powers that be really do not want a political alignment between Christians and Jews. And this is just one way to drive a wedge. Because if Christians and Jews were to link arms politically, they would be too powerful. So I'm just really fed up with the constant harping on the Jews. Sure, you can talk about someone who is a bad actor, they were Jewish. That does not mean all Jewish people are responsible for atrocities that were committed by some people who got in power who were Jews. I've seen some crazy misogyny sprinkled in there. There was one influencer I used to follow for many years. He was calling out the term Judeo-Christian as like a really wrong term. And anyone who used that term was really off base and responsible for the destruction of America. And I piped in, I was like, I have no problem with the term Judeo-Christian. It's simply acknowledging the fact that Judaism is the religion from which Christianity sprang. The Torah, the Old Testament, is the foundation of Christianity. The Ten Commandments comes from there. It's the foundation of Christianity as well as Judaism. I have no problem acknowledging that, and I appreciate that. And so then what happened to me is I had all these accounts, I don't know, dozens, come out of the woodwork. They were mostly probably bots. They were very small accounts with very few followers, mostly anonymous and mostly recently created, attacking me as a woman. Oh, you're a female, you're a stupid female, and oh, you're a Jew lover, blah blah blah. Actually, yeah, I am a Jew lover, and yes, I am female. You are correct. But this is a cancer growing on the right, and this is from an influencer that I really used to respect, and he's by far not the only one who's gone off on this tangent. Again, I don't think the nation of Israel I think it's a corrupt nation. And just like I think America is a corrupt nation. That doesn't mean like, it's not like, oh, everything Israel does is perfect. No, I don't think that at all. I think that Israel probably allowed that attack on their own people, the nation, the government of Israel. So it's not about glossing over bad actors. It's just about not hyper-focusing on identity groups and collectively blaming them for actions of some. Another example that I saw is with this whole HB1 visa thing. On the woke right, you're seeing people, oh, we can't have any more brown people immigrating to our country. We're talking about legal immigration here. Yes, on the right, I think 99% of people agree that we have to control our border. In fact, we have to deport people who've come here illegally, especially the criminals. But legal immigration, and of course there's room for debate on how much of that should be allowed. But to then start blaming people from India, brown people, those brown people from India, and they're so dirty and they turn our country third world. Okay, like, first of all, within India, there are many different types of people, and many of them are not living in filth and squalor. I'm very sorry for the ones that are, but this HB1 visa is for highly educated people. Second of all, you can debate like how many of those should be given out. And yes, you could talk about they should not be making less money than Americans, which would then not incentivize hiring foreigners over our own American citizens, which I agree with. But you start getting into these people going off into these racist rants, and that is woke right. Then there is this faction of Christian nationalism. It's actually in my film Beneath Sheep's Clothing, two of the people I interviewed, James Lindsay and Michael O'Fallon, discussed that and how it's a threat. And most of us who are just regular Christians and people who love America, like myself, oh, I must be a Christian nationalist. But there's people on the far right who are ringleading over here, and it's probably a psyop, but they're ringleading, and they're actually wanting to make America an explicitly Christian nation where if people don't follow the Bible, they will be punished by law. And where it's like this authoritarian Christian system. I'm sorry, that is not what America is built on. America is built on freedom of religion, etc. And we don't want to have an authoritarian Christian regime in charge. We don't want an authoritarian any kind of regime in charge here in America. Okay, so enough with that. So what all of this will do, because some people are like, oh, that's just a few extremists that think that, along with their bots, of their army of bots on X. And this is where it starts. And where does it end? If we don't nip this in the bud on the right, if we don't nip these extremists in the bud and shut this down and expose this agenda, we will see a subversion of the right, a dissolution of MAGA, and freedom in great jeopardy in America. the pendulum. So let's look at this pendulum swing. And I want you to think of families and how families raise their children. And you can see how this pendulum can swing and how people cannot get it right. On one end of the extreme with how people raise their kids, you have authoritarian parents who over-discipline their kids, who, are way too strict. Their kids don't have any freedom. Their kids are maybe even abused. And then on the other extreme, you have some people that maybe grew up in that type of environment. They go too far on the other side where they don't discipline their kids. They don't have structure and boundaries with their children. Their children are running amok and, involved in all kinds of crazy things and no one's stopping them. So where's that happy medium? Every normal person knows, and you can see when you see these families that have it right, where their kids are loved and cared for and given a structure and a discipline that helps their kids to thrive the most. They're also given free will that's age appropriate to be able to try out different things and go in different directions. So that's what we need as a nation, is this happy medium, not this one extreme communist woke left to the other extreme, this fascist woke right. Let's steer clear of those extremes and go with this happy medium, which is our constitutional republic, where we limit the powers of the federal government, more powers given to the states and the local areas and to the citizens ultimately. And then some of these people betray themselves that I've debated with and conversed with on X. They're like, oh, but then you can't get power that way. The constitutional republic is, you can't get enough power. Like, oh, so this is all about power, is it? That's exactly woke, is where power is the main goal. And sorry, that's not what America is built on. So I want to talk now, why is woke so successful at subverting people and getting people offline and into these crazy rabbit trails? And I believe it's because wokeness marries a truth to a lie. So and I do believe that this is very deliberate from the top. There are entities and individuals who are pushing these agendas. I do believe that to be the case. So what wokeness does well is it validates a special issue that a group of people care about, whether on the woke left it's racism, or on the woke right, whether it's uncontrolled immigration. And it validates that issue and it speaks to that issue, and people are like, yep, I agree. And then it starts going off into weird territory of the hyper focus on identity groups and authoritarianism. So it preys on the grievance that individuals have regarding any given issue. That's very key for wokeness, preying on grievance. People are led by the nose through their grievance towards any particular identity group. So the solution, I believe, for the woke right is the same solution for the woke left that I proposed in my book, Beneath Sheep's Clothing, and that I propose elsewhere. And number one, it's forgiveness. It's forgiveness of people who have harmed you in some way, whether you're a person of color and you've had racism against you. You forgive the racists. Whether you're on the right and let's say a family member was harmed by an illegal immigrant and you have a bone to pick with illegal immigrants, you forgive those people that harmed you and your loved ones. And you set healthy boundaries. We don't just forgive and just let people ramrod over us. We set healthy boundaries. So what does that look like on the right with the healthy boundaries? It's enforcing our border and enforcing an immigration system that actually works for America and doesn't just let drug addicts, criminally, insane people through. But the best type of people, and people who will love our country and assimilate. If you're wanting another really crucial aspect to shoring up against wokeness and against authoritarianism is to teach our children to understand these issues, understand why freedom does matter. Please get my free home lesson for parents to teach their kids about age 8 and up about why freedom matters. That lesson is free. My other 2 lessons, The Red Flags of Tyranny and The Ideology of Wokeism, which is a very detailed 2-part lesson for high school age especially. Those are bundled together with my video courses on exposing, Marxist agendas in the schools, as well as the solutions for that, all for $9.99. Go to peoplesnetwork.us/bundle. I hope that we can nip this in the bud. I hope that people can wake up. I think a lot of well-meaning people are getting caught up in this woke right business. And some people don't like that term. That's fine. You call it whatever you want, but we need to stop being hyper-focused on identity groups, on grievance, and being led off of a cliff. Let's protect freedom. Let's protect the agendas of our upcoming President Trump, who will be coming in. Let's truly make America great again. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.